Hello and welcome back to Math Class with Mr. Head. Today we are continuing to look at line plots with fractional data. In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at two different situations and we're going to analyze the data. We're going to use that data to make a line plot, and then we're going to use the information from the line plot to help us answer some questions. So let's go ahead and dive into this lesson. Let's go ahead and read our first situation here. Jeff gathered data about several people who bought oranges at the grocery store. 2 people bought 1/4 pound of oranges. 2 people bought 1/2 pound of oranges. And 2 people bought 3/4 pound of oranges. Let's go ahead and start off and make a line plot. Let's think about the data that we have here. What is this data about? What can we title this? And I'm going to title this Oranges Bought. Okay, so this is oranges bought from the grocery store. And if we look at the label or the unit that we have here, the units that I see here are pounds. So I'm going to label this pounds. Okay. Then we need to think about what numbers we need to put on our number line. If we look at our data, I see that the smallest amount or the smallest unit that we have here is 1/4 of a pound, and the largest one I see is 3/4 of a pound. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label this 1/4. Excuse me, made a mistake there. 1/2 and 3/4. Now we need to place the X's to show how often the data is represented in our situation here. And so for 1/4 of a pound, there are 2 people that bought that. There are 2 people that bought 1/2 pound, and there are 2 people that bought 3/4 of a pound. So now let's go ahead and answer our questions. How many people bought more than 1/4 pound of oranges? So I'm not going to include the people that bought 1/4 pound of oranges. I'm only going to include the people that bought 1/2 pound and 3/4 of a pound. So if I count that data up, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 4 people that bought bought more than 1/4 pound of oranges. Question number 2. How many pounds of oranges were purchased from the store? So this is where I'm going to add up all the data that I have. 2 people purchased 1/4. 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1/2. 2 people purchased 1/2 pound. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. And then 2 people purchased 3/4 of a pound. 3/4 plus 3/4 is 1.5. So if I take all that information and add it up, 1/2 plus 1 plus 1.5, I'll end up with 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1/2 plus 1/2, that's another whole, so that'll take me up to 3. So there were 3 pounds of oranges bought from the store that day. Let's take a look at another situation. Jessica gathered data about the pounds of grapes bought at the farmer's market. 2 people bought 1/4 pound of grapes. 1 person bought 1/2 pound of grapes, and another person bought 3/4 pound of grapes. Let's go ahead and label this. I'm going to label this grapes. Could even do grapes bought. Okay. Once again, the unit that this is each measured in is pounds, so I'm going to label this pounds. And if I look at the data, it's similar to the last one in that our lowest amount was 1/4 and our highest amount was 3/4. So once again, I'm going to label this 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4. Now I need to place X's above my line, my number line, to help me see how many times the data is represented here. 2 people bought 1/4 pounds of grapes, so I'm going to put 2 X's above the 1/4. Only 1 person bought half a pound of grapes, so I'm going to put 1 X here. And then 1 other person bought 3/4 pounds of grapes, so there was 1 person who bought 3/4, so I'm going to put 1 X above that. Now let's take a look at our questions. How many pounds of grapes were purchased from the market? So if I go ahead and add this up, 1/4 plus 1/4 equals, I'll write it in a different color, 1/2. 1 person bought 1/2, so that's 1/2. And then 1 person bought 3/4, so that's 3/4. If we add that up, 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 3/4. 1/2 plus 1/2 is equal to 1 whole. So 1 whole plus 3/4 is 1 3/4. So that's how many pounds of grapes that were purchased from the market. We could say 1 3/4 pounds. Our next question here says, 3 more people came into the market and bought 1/4 pound of grapes. Calculate the total number of pounds that all the customers brought. So what if 3 more people came in? That means that I would add 3 more X's up here above the 1/4. And so now I need to add these 3 to the information that I have over here from this one, because earlier I added up all the green X's that I placed, but I just now added 3 more X's above the 1/4. So 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 is equal to 3/4. So now this information here is going to give me an additional 3/4. So I can add my answer from earlier and then add another 3/4 to it. So 3/4 plus 3/4 is equal to 6/4, or we could say 1 1/2, plus we still have the whole there. So 1 plus 1 1/2 equals 2 1/2 pounds. In today's lesson, for your assignment, you're going to have some information about a donut shop. And you're going to have information similar to this about how many pounds of donuts that people purchased. You're going to answer some questions about the data, and then there's another section where you get to create a line plot with the data. So that's your assignment for today. If you have any questions on your assignment, go ahead and come back and take a look at either the video from yesterday or today's video.